All right, boss. We are in. How are you doing today?
I am just peachy.
Peachy. For southern LA, at least the sun is out and everything is looking good today. We got the weather on our side.
Yes, fortunately the weather is pretty good for tennis. And
Have you been out on the courts yet this morning?
no,
No.
I play only once or twice a week nowadays.
Yeah.
But I always enjoy it when I see people on tennis courts.
Yeah. So, I mean, how's this year been for you? I mean, has it been an exciting 2024? I mean, a lot of people I talk to are in the entertainment industry and they're still like waiting for things to gear up after all the strikes and things like that. But you're in the sports industry, tennis industry. I mean, have you seen any kind of excitement in 2024?
Well, excitement. I don't watch the Grand Slams too much on all these big events.
Yeah.
Because you've seen one match, you've seen them all. No, it's not true, of course.
Of course not. Of course not.
But yeah, for me, the company is doing well. That's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
My company, Conquer Sports, is expanding, is doing well.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important. And my relationship is going very well. 10 years now.
That's also very important. If that's not working well, everything kind of falls apart, doesn't it?
And we have a Beatles connection.
Who, you and I?
No, my relationship and I.
So your partner and you have a Beatles connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
I met her on Match.com.
Uh-huh.
And in my profile, I said, if you don't like tennis and if you don't like the Beatles, stay away. We are not for each other.
And that was your pitch.
That was my pitch. And then a week later, I was playing tennis in Studio City at night, and this woman comes up to my court and looks at me through the fence, and I'm thinking, it looks familiar, but I can't place her. And I came over and said, can I help you? She said, yeah, I'm Pat. Fabulous.
That's a good story. That's sweet. That's nice. I like that. It's a good one. It's good you have something in common with your partner. That's nice. What do you think of this? What do you think of this tennis Breakpoint on Netflix? Have you watched any of it?
I watched the first episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Dramatizing the season of tennis is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not so much into professional tennis.
Yeah.
I love to watch women more than men, which is unusual, of course, and most men like to watch or prefer to watch men.
Yeah.
But I like to watch women more. And I'm not so much into watching the professionals play. I'm into community tennis. The guys that are thinking it out at lower levels.
Right.
That's my
grassroots.
That's my people.
I have a claim to fame. Are you ready for it? I was a ball boy at the Canadian Open in Toronto for more than 10 years from 1990, I want to say I think 89 to maybe 98. Yeah, my brother and I did that. So, and there was all the legends. I ball boyed for Agassi. I ball boyed for Lendl, McEnroe, Andy Roddick at the really beginning of his career. But I just remember I got to ball boy like McEnroe and Agassi year in and year out because they did men's one year, then women's. And the women were like Martina Navratilova, Gabrielle Sabatini, Monica Seles. So Steffi Graf, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wild ride. I had the most fun in my life for those 10 years just hanging around the Canadian Tennis Open. And then one of my ball boy buddies, Gavin Ziv, is now the president of Tennis Canada.
Yes. Good for him.
So we had a good run, although I was never very prolific in tennis as a player. I did ball boy and have the chance to follow. I definitely appreciate the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a little interaction with Andre Agassi. You know, he is the one who took this one woman off the German market. Everyone wanted that woman, right? Steffi Graf.
Mm-hmm.
So he took her off the market and he took her to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
So when he became inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011, I was there and I enjoyed it. I was invited as a press PR guy. And so there was a press conference and he was sitting right above me. I was in the front row. And they asked after the press conference when it was over, any more questions? And I said, yes, I have a question. So they asked, yeah, what is it? And I said to him, looking up to him, I said, Mr. Agassi, what is more important for you, the Hall of Fame induction or the German wife? He looked down on me, at me and said, are you serious? I said, yes. And he looked at the chairman of the Hall of Fame. He looked back and said, ask me later.
We just have a little ceremony to finish, and then I'll get back to you.
And then at the luncheon came the big moment at the luncheon. Legends Luncheon. I was sitting next to Pam Shriver and some other people, and we watched him come on stage. And after we watched like a 3-minute video of his life, and he came on stage and he leaned into the microphone and said, thank you all for coming. I have to tell you, though, I am drunk.
That's a good way to start.
I am drunk. I will talk, though, but I am drunk, okay? Then he referred to the video we just saw, and he said, by the way, this video was great, especially since the one scene where I played Pete Sampras was actually from a match I won. And then he leaned into the microphone again and said, but anyway, fuck Pete. And it was outside tent, the entire tent. That was Andre Agassi.
It's a nice little story. He used to play soccer with us after some of his matches at the Canadian Open in Toronto at York University when we used to play, and he used to like buy us pizza and stuff every now and then. He was a super sweet guy.
Yeah. And now he's playing
pickleball. Yeah, I saw that on Instagram, and that he lives in Vegas now with his wife, and yeah, he's having a whole life.
Although when he played this exhibition match with, who did he play against? I forgot. He, afterwards, he said, pickleball, that is where tennis players go to die.
I agree. It's a terrible sport.
But he meant it in a funny way. He meant it positively. Now he's involved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always thought like pickleball was just a place for people who wanted to play tennis but couldn't serve.
Good one. There's many reasons why people go into pickleball. This may be one. But I think the social aspect of pickleball is one of the main reasons.
Yeah, it's nice actually. Like I have a friend who plays it who introduced me to the sport last year in like September. And we had a few days just playing around, and it was great fun.
Yeah. Imagine how I found pickleball for the same time. I want to say 6-7 years ago in Palm Desert.
Okay.
So I walk up to this public park. I heard the click-clack of the pickleball, and I didn't know what it is. So I walked up to it, and there was a fenced-in 2 tennis courts, and they turned it into 4 or 5 pickleball courts. And I walked closer, and this woman came to the fence, looked at me, and said, come on in. Join us. We have a paddle for you.
That's it.
And I said to myself, this would never happen in tennis. Never in a million years would a tennis player go around seeing someone approach and say, join us. No.
So tennis is just too difficult or too exclusive?
Too clickish.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
If you're pretty decent in tennis, intermediate player, or maybe even a little higher, you don't want to play with beginners or have anything to do with beginners.
Yeah.
That's funny. The problem we have. That's why my company is doing it a little different. We want to encourage beginners to come in.
That's wonderful at any age, right? I think that's the great thing about tennis is you can kind of pick it up at any time. It's kind of like golf. Like you can still play even as you get older. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So where are you from originally?
West Germany. Although
there's a story here.
No, not a story, but when I'm on the phone with people and they asked, where are you from? I detect an accent. I always say Ireland.
Really? Why Ireland?
Just for fun. And no one ever questions that.
Really? You do not have an Irish accent?
I know. But people don't know. So maybe some people ask, oh, yes, we're from in Ireland. And I said, County Cork.
Oh, wow, there you go.
No, Germany.
Yeah. No, I love Germany. I've got so many business partners in Germany and spent so much time in Munich and Berlin and Glauschütte, the little village where they make my watch, Glauschütte Original. Yeah. No, it's super, super nice there.
Country, no doubt. I like it better here, but it is a good country, no.
And I mean, were you into tennis at a young age? Like, what kind of sports were you playing? I mean, in Germany, you must have been playing football, right? Like when you were a kid.
The only sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's soccer fields are available everywhere, so you can play. You don't have to pay.
Yeah.
They were, as when I was young, there were no public tennis courts, and I doubt they are there today. You have to be a member of a club,
Yeah.
and then you become a member of the national governing body. It's all connected.
You know who I was with last October at Oktoberfest in Munich was Tommy Haas.
No.
He has like a little tennis clinic that he was running, and one of my friends was in the clinic, and then I went to go see my friend at the clinic, and then Tommy just says like, "Hey, we're all going. Let's go to Oktoberfest together." So I was down, and he had 2 tables, and I was just with them the whole night. It was just unbelievable. It was my first Oktoberfest and my first time meeting Tommy Haas.
He's the nicest guy, really.
He's the sweetest guy. He was always making sure everyone had a beer, always making sure everyone had food, just kind of taking care of everyone, even though he didn't have to, because they have tons of servers to do all this. Taking photos. Everyone knew him because, like, in North America, Tommy Haas, pretty, like, people around tennis might know him from like 10, 15 years ago. But in Germany, he's like a rock star.
Yeah. He's also the tournament director at the BNP Paribas Open in.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, I met him in March. You should have one person on your podcast.
Who's that?
You recommend. Her name is Adeline Arjat Cook.
Okay.
She owns a tennis store, tennis boutique, she calls it, in Beverly Hills. It's called Love Tennis. And she has the story where he walked into her store and they developed a friendship. And she told me how helpful this man is. And he helped her with connections and everything. And so I think he's the nicest guy.
Yeah. Love Tennis in Beverly Hills.
Beverly.
Oh, I'll get her information from you afterwards.
Fabulous tennis store.
Okay.
She has her own designs and tennis clothes and stuff.
Very nice. Very nice. So which football club which soccer or football club did you support when you were a kid in Germany?
My hometown. Mainz 05. Mainz 05.
Uh-huh.
They started, I think, in 1905. That's why it's called 05. When I was young, they were not in the Premier League, though. They were much further below, but now they are in the Premier League.
And you've got to follow them, then follow that journey?
Yeah. They just made it this year. I think they just made it not to be relegated to a lower league. Their season wasn't.
Yeah, but they managed to stay up. I love how Europe, you grew up with football teams and you cheer for them your whole life, no matter where you live. No, it was always like the team that you grew up with is your team for life. And I love that because I feel like here people flip-flop between their teams depending on who's doing well. And here, so many teams move around. Like one year, the Oakland, the LA Raiders are in LA, then they're in Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas, but they're still the Raiders. It's like, when you grow up with a team, they're not necessarily going to be there 10 years later. But in Europe, they really stay. They just get relegated and then back up. And I love that because here I find in North America, sports is much more confusing.
That could be. But Mainz 05 is actually in the Guinness Book of Records. I don't know when that happened, probably in the 60s or so. They were in the 50s. They were in the Premier League in the 50s, and then they went down. When I became involved, they were.
But it had nothing to do with you.
They were in the Premier League, and they wanted to play a friendly in between seasons against, I think it was FC Watford in England. And FC Watford was like 3 leagues below. They were an amateur club. But there was a communication breakdown. No one knew of each other, basically, where they were in the rankings, Mainz and Watford. So when Watford came into the stadium and played in front of 20,000 people, they thought, oh my God, they never played in front of more than 300 people, right? So in Mainz won 20-0.
20-0.
Yeah. Got into the Hall of Fame.
That's a bloodbath. Jesus, you think they would have stopped it at halftime and just got drunk?
But we saw the Dodgers.
What happened there?
Against the Mets. Was it 10-0? I think it was 10-0.
10-0. Yeah, in baseball, that's a big score, isn't it? Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't been to a professional baseball game in probably 25 years. I grew up with the Toronto Blue Jays. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, so I had the Toronto Blue Jays and I had the Toronto Maple Leafs, the baseball and the hockey, and then eventually the Raptors. But Yeah, it's been a long time. I've lived abroad for like 25 years, and I just got back to North America 6 months ago, and I started doing this.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Toronto is a beautiful city.
Yeah.
Do you remember Peter Ustinov? The actor?
No, I don't remember him.
He was a pretty famous actor, died probably like 20 years ago. He made this comment about Toronto. It was funny. I remember it. He said, Toronto is like New York run by the Swiss.
Yeah, you could say that. A little cleaner, a little safer, a little... Actually, these days, it's not too safe. There's more crime and stuff like that. So my brother says he still lives there.
I had a tennis friend in Iran, and she wanted to come to North America to teach there. She's a tennis coach, and I helped her get a job in Toronto at a tennis club, and she just loves it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's cold though in the winter. Yeah, I mean that's when I had to leave. Like I couldn't deal with winters, and then I ended up in China, and then I have sweaters and stuff. I see what you're wearing. I get it, but it's still like it's tough, and I hated winter, so I've really tried to avoid it the last 25 years. Now I live in LA, and it's beautiful every day.
There you go. And I'm bi-coastal. I live in LA and in Miami, and I enjoy that as well.
Oh, really?
It's a different kind of weather. Very nice weather.
Yeah. Florida's a big hub for tennis, even probably bigger than California, isn't it?
Areas are bigger than California in tennis, but Florida is pretty big.
When I was a kid, everyone was going to Nick Bollettieri's camps in Miami or in Orlando.
Bradenton, Florida.
Yeah, Bradenton, Florida.
It's now IMG.
Oh, yeah. Is Nick Bollettieri even still alive? That's too bad. He coached so many of the greats, didn't he?
Yeah. Andre Agassi, for instance. I think he died 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's a real end of an era.
Mm-hmm. And they made a pretty film.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that. Huh. Okay, so when did you move on from being a football fan to getting involved in tennis then? In Germany, in West Germany?
Never. There was no opportunity to play tennis in Germany.
So what did you do when you were a kid?
We played soccer and nothing else, and marbles.
Okay. Way back in the day when no one had a soccer ball.
Yeah. I was pretty good at marbles.
Okay.
Better than I am today at tennis.
Okay, but there was no league for that, so there's no income earning opportunities apart from taking some money from some other kids.
We played soccer. That was it. I played volleyball in a league. That was interesting. That's it. And handball. I played in the handball.
Oh, handball is interesting, isn't it? That sport has not caught on in North America at all, but it's an Olympic sport. It's a huge sport, like everywhere else in the world.
So is field hockey, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Hong Kong off and on for like a year or two, and there were a lot of Australians and New Zealanders in Hong Kong, expats like working, and field hockey is huge in Australia and New Zealand, Canada too, I think. Yeah.
Look at cricket. How big cricket is in everywhere else, but in USA and Germany.
I got to tell you this though. I filmed in India a few years ago. I filmed for 60 straight days. I did a motorcycle tour all around India. And on the first week, I didn't understand cricket. And by the end of my 2 months in India, because that's the only thing you can watch on TV at night, I was like an expert. Like I knew all the bats. I knew most of the players. Like I was fully into it because all we would do is ride motorcycles all day, arrive at another city at 6 p.m., eat, have a few beers, watch cricket, go to bed, wake up, do the next thing. So I had like 60 days of my cricket education.
And it's a great sport, isn't it?
It's amazing. And it's actually incredible how athletic the players are because there's not as much movement as like soccer or football. But when they do have to move, they're so fast. Yeah.
I used to live in England, London, England. I watched cricket live, and it was always amazing, the atmosphere. When they played clubs from, let's say, from the West Indies, and they came with bands and drums and stuff. It was always a great atmosphere.
Yeah. Do you remember Sir Viv Richards? He was a big West Indies player. I think he's in like the Cricket Hall of Fame. I met him once in Shanghai, China. He came to do a big cricket event because China said like they're going to win the Cricket World Cup someday. And then they brought in a whole bunch of really great players and tried to like launch a cricket program. And I was a journalist back then, so I would go and take photos of all the people I met. And I met him briefly. He was a super nice guy. Yeah. China never did anything with cricket.
I don't remember any names of cricket players.
So when did you get out of Germany then? When did your journey outside of, when did your journey outside of Germany begin?
1979. I worked for Xerox from 77 to 79. Was a very successful salesman, best salesman of the country in my first year, and which was great. And but it was all my sales manager. He was a great guy. He knew how to lead his people and how to motivate them. So everyone was good in this team, on this team. And then he left Xerox, and we were all devastated. And then he calls me 2 weeks later and says, "Hey, I went to work for this small German manufacturer of electromedical equipment. I want you on my team. I need a man to sell and manage and start up the business in England." And
Oh, wow.
27, I had no clue. So my then ex-wife and we went to London to check it out. We loved it right away, and I took on the job. And a year later, he was fired,
Oh, Jesus.
and they hired me as international sales manager. And a year later, I quit. This was not a good situation for anyone. But my ex-sales manager from Xerox, he founded his own company, and he hired me then. He wanted me on his team. And the same kind of equipment, and they had a interest in selling in the United States. So they sent me over to the United States to check things out, to talk to some doctors, talk to some hospitals, universities, and see where we could go with the business. That's what I did in 1983 for about 2.5 weeks, and I had a great time. My best time, the company we were working with was in Atlanta, and I stayed with the host family, one of their employees, and he took me to a baseball game.
Atlanta Braves.
I don't know. I don't remember who they were playing, but it was fabulous. No one got killed.
Yeah, that's nice, right?
No one got stabbed. Everyone was so peaceful. And then the host said, "Are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah, maybe." And he came back with a beer and a bucket full of Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I said, "I want to live here."
Kentucky Fried Chicken sealed the deal?
They sealed the deal. And it was so good.
Yeah.
And the beer was so bad, but the chicken was so good. So when we went back home, we said, we want to move here. I want to move and work in the United States. But how do you do that? It's not that easy.
No, I just went through the whole process myself.
So I started looking in the Frankfurt newspaper, which is the most important newspaper for job offers. And I found a company, a British company, manufacturing and selling electronic displays, from small moving message signs, LED, to large stadium billboards. And they had a branch. They were looking for a sales manager in Bremen, Germany, and had a branch in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. I haven't never heard of that place.
So I said, let's see if I can get that job. And I got the job, and I asked them, well, how are my chances of getting transferred to the United States? And they said, as a matter of fact, we will be looking soon for a sales manager. And so they did. A year later, they transferred me and the entire household in a huge container. And it was a pretty good job. My predecessor, who I replaced, the entire previous year, he sold $40,000 worth of equipment to 17 customers. In my first 6 months, I sold $3.5 million of equipment to 3 customers.
Wow, that's not bad.
Philip Morris was one.
The cigarette company.
Yeah. But it didn't end well.
Oh, no.
Because the competition found out what we were doing, and they saw that we had this patent to a super bright LED. No one had this product. So a competitor from Long Island bought the company in England, and the owner never told anyone. He just sold it. That was it.
Oh, wow.
And this new company fired everyone.
Oh, my God. That's tricky.
So after 6 months in this country with my family, my daughter, and all my household, we were living in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, just down the road from King of Prussia, on the street. Wrong visa too. This visa belonged to this company. It was an intercompany visa.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough.
So when the company, when they closed down the company and fired everyone, all the visas became invalid.
Yep. So it was illegal for a while and no job. But it was this is the land of the opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. So during the day, I drove for Domino's Pizza, and in the evening, I was a waiter in a fine dining restaurant.
And that's what you had to do after selling over $3.5 million worth of equipment to 3 customers.
Yeah. I did this for 4 or 5 months, and then I found a job with a German company. Were looking for a general manager in this country. And I did this job. They provided a visa. It was still not the right visa. This visa, I think it was called an E2, is not designed to turn into a green card.
Oh, really?
It can't.
Mm-hmm.
So for many, many years, I had to go to Germany every 3 years, pay a lot of money to an attorney to provide the paperwork, had to go to the American embassy in Frankfurt and get this renewed.
Yeah, they did that to you on purpose, right? So that you can just keep paying the lawyer all the fees. Mm-hmm. It's like having a customer for life, right? Make sure that you don't get the right visa, so you don't get a green card, so you have to keep coming back to pay all the fees and burn all the money on flights and all this garbage. Yeah, it happens all the time.
It's like a doctor who keeps his patient sick.
Just a little sick, yeah. And just come back every couple of weeks. Yeah.
So, but after my divorce, my ex-wife, she worked for a company that provided a green card for her. Mm. And so my daughter had a green card as well. And in 2016, she said she didn't want to look at this any longer, me bothering with the visa all the time. She says, here's what we're going to do. I will become a citizen and I will sponsor you.
Oh, that's nice.
And so in it was still in 2017, or 16, I applied for a green card. And that took a while. It took 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah. And I know why.
Because you had all these other visas that were all the wrong ones, or what? No.
Well, at the time, I worked with the FBI in San Diego on some cybercrime things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't gotten into this at all.
There was this bad guy in the Ukraine, and I found him. He made these job offers to people on.
Oh, it's like tricking them.
But he didn't have a job. He just needed people to wash some money for him. So he would be on eBay, for instance, selling something he didn't have. So people paid money, but this money needed to be transferred to the Ukraine. And people wouldn't pay for a product and pay in the Ukraine directly. They don't do that. This is far too
risky.
Obvious.
Risky, yeah.
So I found him out, and I started to talk to him, and I reported him to the FBI.
Really? Wow, that's bold.
Mm-hmm. So they told me they were working on him with a task force, and if I wanted to stay on and work with them and keep him engaged and find stuff about him, and they paid me for it.
Are you serious? Wow, you're like a spy.
So when I had my green card application, it took so long, I didn't hear from them, but I knew it was in the background check area at the FBI in San Diego. So I asked my contact, my handler, I want to call him. I asked him, can you help me find out what's wrong? And he came back a week later and said, I'm really sorry to tell you, I found your application on the desk of one of my colleagues at the bottom of a large pile. And I asked him, hey, this guy works with us. Can you maybe
speed it up
a little for him?
Mm-hmm.
And he said no. So and then it was another 2 years on this man's table.
Oh my God, how is that possible?
Yeah.
That would never happen in Germany.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
The Germans are way too efficient to let paper sit for 2 years on someone's desk while they're, yeah.
But then I had my green card. A few years later, I became a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And I promised the reason why I wanted to become a citizen, I want to vote the thugs out.
You want to vote the thugs out. Well, that's tough. Everyone's a thug. It doesn't matter which party system you're betting on. It's all just pretty rough, actually.
That took me a while.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, politics is... I studied politics in university, and I've been watching what's been going on around the world, and it's become a lot dirtier and uglier the last 20 years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every country, any country...
Yeah, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle they sit, in red, blue, white, green, it doesn't matter. Everyone's just miserable.
And then you have people asking for term limits, asking the people who vote for this, they have to determine the term limits, and they would never.
No, of course not. Yeah. But what's okay. The political system in Germany is pretty bland. I mean, you had Angela Merkel for like 10 plus years, and she was basically Putin's little puppet.
Problem.
And then you had, before Angela Merkel, you had Gerald Schroeder, right? Schroeder? Who is the... Yeah, and he was on the board of Gazprom. Also nice.
Kohl before that.
There you go. Yeah, so Trump is following in suit. I think politics is just miserable in general. You know, like I remember speaking to my father years and years ago. My father's like 78 now. And he was saying, like, in the 50s and 60s, like, the best of the best wanted to work for the government. Like, because it was a good job and it brought you a lot of respect and it had good upward mobility and all these kinds of things. And the government really went out and tried to attract, like, top talent, you know, from business schools and from other, you know, Ivy League schools and all these other really great places inside. I'm just talking about the United States. And he said, I don't know when this switched. He said it really switched in like the 80s when you could start to see like the smartest people in the room didn't want to have anything to do with the government. They just wanted to go off and be entrepreneurial and build their own businesses. And then he said, and then you just saw this huge backslide of smart people just not wanting to be in government.
And then I read today about the Swedish military.
What's going on about the Swedish military?
Swedish military seems to be the only military in the world that rejects applications. They only want the best of the best. So most of the applications are being rejected, I heard today.
Really? And every other country in the world is just accepting military? Okay, so hold on. Let me go back about it. So for 27 years, you live in Germany supporting your football club, playing marbles and football when you're a kid. Then you start working for Xerox and you become a hero. Then your boss leaves. Then you go to England. Then he leaves. Then you go to the U.S. and your company disappears overnight. Then you end up working in a restaurant, driving for Domino's Pizza. Then you finally get a green card. You finally get a visa. Where does tennis fit into all of this?
Okay. In 2015, I should start in 1994. When I moved to California, I started to be interested in tennis. One of my neighbors in Pennsylvania, actually, a German, a bad player, I can say this now, he passed away.
Nothing better than talking shit about people who can't defend themselves.
He was a great guy. His game was just not so good.
Of course.
And he told me what he thought was tennis. But when I moved to California, I became a member of the Bobby Riggs Tennis Club in San Diego. Encinitas. And this was great. I traded membership for writing their newsletter and for running their mixers, drop-in mixers where members could come and I sort them out and made them play. And I liked it so much, I started a group there, and we called it the San Diego Tennis Network. It was a pretty big group, had 250 players. We played at different locations throughout the week, like La Costa Resort, for instance, or Rancho Valencia Resort, big names. And I became a board member of the San Diego District Tennis Association, which is a district of the Southern California Tennis Association, which is one of the 17 sections of the United States Tennis Association, USTA.
And this was all just voluntary? Like this was just a community that you wanted to be a part of?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My San Diego Tennis Network actually provided a very nice part-time income.
Oh, okay.
And paid for all my groceries.
That's good.
Important.
And what about your playing? Like, were you actually playing at this time? Like, were you were you like, what kind of level was your own game at?
Yeah, I was at the shitty level.
Okay, don't hold back.
But the problem was, there was a big problem with my level. I thought I was much, much higher in level.
That's what always happens, isn't it?
It was terrible. I played mostly doubles. I blamed my partner when we lost, always. And my girlfriend at the time, she played mixed doubles with me in a league. And I blamed her when we lost.
Yeah. How long did that relationship last?
After that, not much.
Of course.
But one day we played a league match and she left me on the court, went home, said, I'm never going to play tennis with you again. And then a few days later, one of my friends came to me and said, so I have good news and bad news. The bad news is no one at the Bobby Riggs Tennis Club wants to play with you.
At the whole club?
And I was devastated. I thought I was this big player, And then he said, but there's good news. And the good news is I'm going to help you. Number one, I'm going to teach you a little bit how to get better in tennis. You got to get a decent level with tennis. And number two, I'm going to teach you some people skills.
No, people skills. That's important.
So he did. We had a lot of tequilas and a lot of lessons, and it worked very well. 3 months later, he said, you're ready to go back. And I started playing again, and I tell you what, a month later, everyone wanted to play with me.
Wow. How did you manage that transition from
I
going...
became a nice guy.
That's it?
I was not.
And I mean, how do you live your whole life from being born to being in your mid-30s or 40s, being a total asshole? Your words, not mine. And then all of a sudden just changing in 3 months.
Tennis court.
There wasn't in any other facets of business. It was just tennis.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was really bad. And I always thought I was so much better than anyone else, which is really bad.
Yeah.
Especially in this country.
Yes, yeah. Humility helps a lot in the United States.
In Germany, it's different. Everyone thinks he's better than anyone else. But here, humility goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, that's nice you had someone like sit you down and be like, hey, this isn't working. We can all see it. You can't see it. Let's work on this together, right?
Thank you, Donnie. I don't even know if he's still alive. Thank you, Donnie.
So what were these life lessons that he was teaching you about how to be a better people person? Like, can you share any of this? Because I'm sure there's people out there watching. It's like, no one likes to play tennis with me either.
Yeah. Be humble was one of his big messages. Be humble. Acknowledge other people. Congratulate other people when they made things, when they made good points, for instance, on the tennis court, and work with people. Try to be friendly to people. I always said, be friendly. You don't have to be angry all the time. Why are you angry? I was angry at myself because I thought I should win, but I didn't. So this is all those life lessons he instilled in me, and they work. And what I found out about myself, I started to have fun on the tennis court. And so when I have fun, I play better. And when I play better, I have more fun.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. It's a vicious and happy circle. I'm curious though, like when you were a kid in West Germany, playing football with your friends when you were a kid, like surely you'd have to have some team skills of playing football with another, you're one of 11, right? So you got to have 11 friends. You got to be cheering them on. You got to be supporting your teammates. But you didn't translate that into tennis at all?
No, this was long ago. I changed.
Yes. You forgot all those lessons from being a kid.
But I was always one of those center guys in soccer. I shot goals from. They served me with their shots.
Yeah.
And I shot the goals.
So
it was
As long as you scored the goals, it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. But and in my 30s in Pennsylvania, I joined a soccer league with young guys, all young guys, and they were running so fast, and I could not. And so they just placed me at the center field somewhere, close enough. And every once in a while, they shot the ball to me, and I scored.
So you could still finish, even though you weren't the best teammate.
Oh, man, I was having a hard time keeping up.
It's funny, I played basketball when I was younger as well, and it's amazing how much like those team sports, because I played basketball from like the age of 7 to the age of 22 at a pretty high level. It's amazing like how those skills that I learned about dealing with people, being part of a team, motivating, cheering people on, humility, congratulating them, how all that still really helps me in my business life. And because I have a production company, we make television shows, and taking people out like into the field, into difficult situations, and keeping everyone motivated and happy and part of the team. Like I feel like if I didn't play basketball when I was in my teens and 20s, I wouldn't have necessarily those skills. Yeah.
It goes such a long way. I did a little acting on the side too.
Okay.
Hollywood. Of course, when you move to LA, this is something you do.
Yeah.
When you have time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just little roles, nothing big. There was a crime reenactment show. I forgot the name. And they picked me from a picture from my headshot.
Okay.
So so it came on. They shot it in Sherman Oaks over 4 or 5 days. And when we came in on Monday morning, the director looked at me and said, "You look exactly like this detective. You're the head detective."
Oh, I thought he was going to say you're exactly like this criminal.
No, the head detective. And he said, "And you have the right clothing." I had to bring 80s clothing. I had 80s clothing at all.
That's my whole closet. We're fine. I wish I had some good 80s clothing.
So he said, "But don't forget, this played in Texas. I need your thickest Texas drawl you can get."
That is not an easy accent.
I had no clue. I asked my fellow actors, and no one was able to teach me that in 5 minutes, right? So when my first speaking part came, I was there in a suit, outside the house with a tie and everything, and I read my lines. I spoke my lines, and I saw him sitting like 50 feet away, and he fell off his chair laughing.
Because it was a German accent and not a Texas?
So he said. So I went over and said, "Yeah, what?"
It's like getting called into the principal's office.
He said, "What the I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This is not Texas. There's no Texan accent." I said, well, your casting director cast me off a headshot. They never listened to me. So that's what you get. And he said, "Oh, man, you look so good and you move well. Everything is great, but I can't have you speak." So in those 52 minutes, I'm in 47 scenes. And all you can hear from me is like, "Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, okay."
They took all your speaking parts away. At least they didn't like do a voiceover for you, right? Where it's like your lips are moving, but it's someone else's voice, like from Texas.
No. No, when I started to move my lips, they had someone else explain stuff.
Someone with the right accent. And that's it. That was
An accent wasn't important for that part.
Oh.
What do they call this?
The narration.
Narration.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. Well, you had a brief taste of Hollywood.
But to continue where we left off with the tennis, in 2005, a friend of mine recruited me for the Active Network.
What's that?
The Active Network was a San Diego company. They're now in Dallas. And they were into online registration of sports, any sport.
Oh.
So you sign up for a basketball league or something, and you sign up online. You go through the Active servers, and they charge a percentage, and they process the whole thing.
Oh, wow. This is convenient.
A lot of companies are doing this now. And they became the technology partner of the USDA for all the signing up for everything, USDA league, tournaments, junior team tennis, everything. And I was the team lead for USTA adult leagues and ratings, the rating systems they have. And it was a pretty good job. They sent me all over the country to most of the 17 sections to train people there. And
So this was a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but then they were pre-IPO, so they had to reduce expenses, and they said every team had to lose people that made too much money.
And you were one of them.
So they had me train my successor, who was like 24, a young woman, and made like less than a third what I was making.
And there you go. Capitalism at its best. So how did you rebound from that?
I found my own. And I did, it was in 2010, I did consulting work and started writing a newsletter.
That's great. Yeah. I think you really have to be entrepreneurial in a lot of ways just to protect yourself from the garbage that goes on at these companies, because they just don't give a shit about you at all, right? I mean, you see that across whether it's finance, banking, insurance, like it doesn't matter, right? If someone has to cut some costs, you're gone. Yeah. You really have to have your own thing going. Yeah.
This company went IPO, and then a few years later they got the owner took it private again, and then they moved it to Dallas, Texas.
Okay. And they're still okay. So how was running your own little business on the and having to build that up?
Well, of course, you have to make a living. So I had my tennis groups that I ran for like, it's now 27 years I run tennis.
Which still pays for the groceries?
Used to pay for the groceries, not anymore. In San Diego, things are a little different. So the court fees were much lower, the overhead was much lower, and we could charge a little bit more. So it was a nicely profitable business. Now today it's just a hobby, but a hobby that helps me with my company, Conquer Sports, because we are developing groups of players, and we want them to do stuff. We have a new app, for instance, in beta testing right now. And when it's out of beta testing, we will introduce this app to all these players I know and have dealt with in the past, to see if they want to sign up and become participants.
That's interesting. So when did you set up this Conga Sports?
August of 2021.
Okay. And this is basically you kind of taking all of your tennis experience over the last like 2.5 decades or two decades and putting it into building this own kind of, like you mentioned it earlier, like a grassroots experience. Yeah.
My unpublished mission statement is we will be 10 times better than the USDA.
Okay.
Although, of course, we cannot compete with the USDA in the main functions they do, like giving grants, grassroots tennis organizations, awarding people with awards, and sending people on first-class trips all over the world, their employees, and giving $1 million salaries to executives. We can't do that. We won't. But being able to create interesting programs to get new people in, that's what we do.
And at the amateur level?
Amateur level.
Yeah.
Grassroots level, recreational tennis.
And there's, how many, excuse me, how many people in Southern California, like LA, San Diego area, like how many people do you think are actually playing like amateur level recreational tennis? Is it in the millions or hundreds of thousands?
It is hundreds of thousands, not in the millions. We always think that the USTA League has about 10% of all the tennis players in the area, and they have about 40,000 players, so there's probably 400,000 tennis players in Southern California, which seems a lot, but it is being dwarfed by another city. This is the tennis capital of the world.
Which is what?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Really? I didn't know that. What makes Atlanta so special?
Players.
But why?
Just in one in one greater Atlanta city, because they have the USTA and they have another organization there that's much bigger. It's called ALTA, Atlanta Lawn Tennis Association. And they play not necessarily at clubs, although they do too, but the majority of their matches are being played in developments, like condo developments and small house developments where they have 2 or 3 or 4 tennis courts. That's where they're playing most of their matches.
So they don't even have to go to the big country clubs and stuff like this, or the big tennis clubs. They can bypass it and play locally. Oh.
And it's much bigger than what happens in Atlanta, Georgia is bigger tennis-wise than all of California together.
Really? No, I would have never expected that. Yeah. And where does Florida match up? Is Florida like number 2 behind Atlanta, Georgia? Like, I mean, Florida's a state, Atlanta's a city, but...
I can mostly relate to other groupings, like the section groupings of the United States Tennis Association. They have 17 sections. The southern section, Atlanta is part of the southern sections with 6 or 7 states. This is by far the biggest section. The next biggest section is the entire Midwest.
The entire Midwest. What's that, like 20 states?
I don't know, 2010 maybe. And huge. Indiana, Ohio, huge in tennis.
Which is strange because you can only play outside 6 months a year.
Yeah. And then the third section is Texas.
Just Texas by itself.
Texas. Oh, man. Houston, Dallas, this is just hotbeds of tennis in this country. Mm-hmm. Then come others like Florida, California, New England.
Interesting. Wow. I'm getting a whole like tennis landscape of the United States here. No, this is great. And your focus is just to work on Southern California or all of California, or do you want to eventually kind of have your network operational all around the United States?
Yeah. My goal is, of course, to expand across the United States, not only with the new app that's coming out, but with our flagship program, which is called City Slams, where small teams of tennis players play for their city, for their community, against teams that play for their city. So we're doing this this is our proof of concept here in Southern California. In the second half of this year, we're going to Northern California as well. So all of California needs to be covered by the end of this year. And then we'll expand slowly to other states. In about 5 years, we want to be nationwide in every state. And then when that happens, we'll have a true national championship where every state can compete has a pathway to national championships. Mm-hmm. And then we'll expand to city teams from Mexico and from Canada. Make it a North American challenge.
That's interesting. That's exciting. So the City Slam, so what? Like, so you have a ranking system and you have all these amateur players playing. So the top players in the ranking system would then go to another city to represent their city? How does it work?
No. Like, for instance, at the moment we have, we're recruiting teams in Los Angeles and in the Valley.
What does it mean to recruit a team? Because
10 players, 2 men and 2 women.
Okay.
And we have a team from Sherman Oaks. We have a team from Studio City, a team from Woodland Hills, North Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Santa Monica. And we are looking for a few more teams. We want to get 12 teams together.
Mm-hmm. LA is huge, isn't it? It's just a nightmare.
It's huge. And then when I went to San Diego, my goal was to recruit players into teams there as well. I want to have 4 teams in San Diego. So let's say we have 12 teams up here. They play June 8, a tournament, short tournament. This is a series of short tournaments, City Slams.
So were they playing at 1 set or 3 sets? What's a short tournament?
A short tournament is 1 set. Okay. 1 short set.
Wow, you can't even warm up. Like 1 set and you're done. It takes me like into my second set just to get my serve going.
You play 1 set of men's doubles, 1 set of women's doubles, and 1 set of mixed doubles.
Oh, so no singles?
No singles.
Okay.
But there's a lot of teams involved, so you play more than 1 team, right? So they have more than 1 set. And so the champion that comes out of here plays against the champion from San Diego for the Southern California Challenge. And when I'm done with Northern California at the end of the year, next year we'll have a true California championship. So we have a California
North versus South. And then Texas will have a North versus South, and Florida will have a North versus South, and then you'll have a state champion for each state, and then all of them will play at the end of each season. Where? Las Vegas.
Indian Wells, for instance.
Indian Wells is amazing, isn't it?
Or Florida, wherever, or maybe somewhere in the middle. Yeah, and that's my dream.
That's it, and that's Conga Sports. That's what you're trying to do with the City Slams.
Sports. We have other programs in developing. As soon as City Slams is fully developed in California, we start more.
Mm-hmm.
Family team tennis, where families as a unit play other families, but not in a competitive way, in a nice, low competitive.
Do Americans do anything in a low competitive way?
And then the next program is called corporate team tennis, where corporations play each other. That'll be more competitive for bragging rights. And then there's a few more things I can't talk about.
That's exciting, though. So you're bringing kind of like a love of amateur. You're taking amateur tennis. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're taking amateur tennis and organizing it in an exciting way to try to bring in more people and also give accolades to people who are successful. Yeah.
There's one more aspect to this that I'm working on, but it's a tough aspect. It takes time to do that. Have you heard of the Savannah bananas?
No, I have not heard of the Savannah bananas. Savannah, Georgia, right? Yeah.
You have to check.
On YouTube or what?
This is everywhere. This is the greatest baseball team ever.
The Savannah Bananas. Okay.
They play Coastal League. Their club has two teams. They're playing each other in exhibitions going around the country and in Savannah, and against others, of course, in the Coastal League. And everyone is in yellow, of course. And the story is so amazing. This guy buys this team. They have a large stadium, and they only get like 300-400. They only got like 300-400 people there on their home matches. And now they not only have every home match sold out with 4,000 people, they have a 10,000 people waiting list to get in.
Oh my God, how'd they do that?
Get tickets.
Yeah.
Because it's a show. For him, it is, he says, baseball we are in the entertainment business. We are not in the baseball business. Entertainment.
Yeah, I believe that.
They do entertainment. And they do entertainment?
Savannah Bananas. Is it like the Harlem Globetrotters, like where they play the Washington Generals every night, same team, and then they just put on a show?
Better.
Better than that?
They have grandmother's ballet on the field where they dance. Every player has to dance and sing as well.
Oh my God, that's okay.
They have to, like, when a player comes on the field, he can sing his own tune when he comes on the field, or when he goes up to bat, he can do a dance routine, and all sorts of tricks. They have pitchers on batters on stilts.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. So people stay there until the very end. And for him, if you read his books, I read both of his books, from the time they come into the stadium till the time they leave that stadium, they will be entertained. And the ticket prices are always the same. They all include a drink, a beer, and a hot dog. And he has all those rules. They played, for instance, in Boston last month, I think. Sold out stadium, 50,000 people.
Are you serious?
Savannah Bananas, yes.
45,000 people went to Fenway Park in Boston to watch the Savannah Bananas.
Yes. He calls it a world tour, the 3 stadiums world tour, something like this. He went to Boston and to 2 other stadiums.
That's incredible that someone's built this out of. So they stopped playing competitive baseball and just started playing against themselves, basically. And then they took this brand of entertainment all around the U.S., and it's a huge hit.
CNN, NBC, everyone is talking about.
Really?
And I talked to the man, and I told him that I would love to do similar things in tennis. Combine it with City Slams, create a show around it. And he just loves the idea. He wants to support me, but we are far away from starting that. It's just, we have to get City Slams going all over this state, at least completely, and everything in place before we can start something new, like an entertainment show around it.
Yeah.
But I think this can be actually on a recreational tennis level, can be a show where people pay money to come in and see recreational players play tennis.
In a fun and entertaining way where everyone just has a good time. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a genius idea. The moment we're done this conversation, I'm going to check out this Savannah Banana stuff because it's...
Be amazed how much is on YouTube about them and how good everyone feels in the stadium.
Yeah.
People from all over the world, Japan, they want to get tickets, but they can't. And it's hard to get a ticket for this show.
Oh, it's going to be probably a Netflix show at some stage, right?
Maybe.
That's interesting. So, I mean, when did you decide to like devote your life to tennis? I mean, because it seems like it's 360 degrees in your brain. Everything you're doing is just tennis, and then also to decide to do it at the amateur level, I think is. I mean, you just have more people, but it's amazing. Like, do you know, like, when did that light bulb switch on?
When I started my newsletter, it was called Tennis Club Business in 2014. I decided I want to be involved in the business of tennis, and it worked pretty well. And during the next years, it was clear to me that I'm the only publication in this sport that is not beholden to the United States Tennis Association. We don't toe the line. We are critical. And it's the only one. No one else is. No one else dares to be critical because everyone makes advertising revenue from them. So we are known for that part.
Hard-hitting truth.
Yes. And we know them. We know them. Oh, we know what's going on in Orlando at the headquarters. And I have all those those people who are giving me information open. But then in 2021, and then in 2020, they had a new CEO come in, but he was only there for, I think, less than a year. But this was the first time that one executive of this organization started to talk to me. They don't talk. For them, if they see someone who's writing critical things, they just ignore him. And they actually issued this mantra to their members at the annual meeting in 2019. As far as Rich Neher is concerned and his newsletter, ignore the noise. Don't say anything. Fortunately, not everyone is following this. But when this new executive started talking to me, I implored him to make some changes. And one of the changes that I think they should do is make it fun, make it more fun. Get a little bit about the competitiveness tennis, make it fun, get people in with a fun and social atmosphere. And my ideal was always that someone would say, tennis. Someone young would say, tennis, that's a sport I want to join. It looks like so much fun. And this is such a cool organization, but they can't.
Because it's too stressful and too competitive and too expensive and just
stressful. The learning curve is huge. It's no one wants to be with beginners. It's cliquish. They fence themselves off against beginners. Unless a club is actively doing something about it, some are doing this. The beginners are left out. That's why we heard last month the CEO of the USDA in an interview. He gave us a number that was shocking. He said, in the past few years, we have added 4.8 million new players to the sport thanks to COVID. Unfortunately, 98% of them have already left the sport.
Oh my God, that's huge. 98% of the people got turned off by tennis.
Because no one wants to play with them.
Right.
So I knew this number existed when I worked for them in between 2006 and 2010. But I didn't know it was so high, and I want to change that. So I said,
"Well, those are your customers."
Yeah. I said, I want to do it. I want to create a fun organization where people say, "Yes, that looks like something I want to be involved." And that's what I'm setting out to do.
You're right, though, because tennis is so hard to get into if you don't have money. I mean, I hate to keep using movie references and stuff like this, but I was just watching like King Richard with the Williams sisters, with Will Smith, and how hard it was for him to just get his kids like decent level coaching, and how he couldn't afford anything, and then eventually he got like sponsored by a club. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're ambitious as a young person in tennis, your parents have to spend tens of thousands of dollars a year just to get you, or more. Yeah, just to get you up to a certain level. Yeah,
Because there's rarely anything local for your kids. You always have to travel somewhere to be in a tournament, and there's travel expenses. Then there's high tournament registration fees, and it is expensive if you have to bring money. Like in so many other areas, if you want to, there's this saying about aviation.
aviation.
Aviation. How do you make a little money in aviation? You start out with a lot of money. Yeah, the same can be said about tennis.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to introduce kids to the sport at a like a fun entry level before it gets like super serious and super competitive. Because I feel like other sports do that. Like, like in baseball, you can start off, playing, in a relatively less stressful environment. But with tennis, it's so much on you because it's one-on-one, right? Like you don't have any, well, I mean, you found some tennis partners to shit on, but for the most part, it's just all you. And that's terrifying for a young kid, right?
And there's another component for young kids. This element of cheating is so rampant. Like you get at age 8, you have a coach somewhere, and the coach brings you into his academy, and the coach makes you into a decent young player. You are now 12, and you start thinking about playing some tournaments, right? There's tons of tournaments out. So you sign up for the tournaments that you need to sign up for to get some ranking points, and these are USTA tournaments for the kids. So you go to this tournament, and the first one you play at, you're already being cheated out of the entire experience, because
aren't there referees?
There's only one roving referee.
Umpire, right?
Umpire,
yeah.
For the entire tournament, and 20 courts or something. And your opponent, this other kid on the other side, just makes the line call so badly, making sure he wins, or she wins.
Does that really happen? That's terrible, because a lot of like 12-year-old kids wouldn't know how to fight back and to stand up for themselves, right? Like they might not.
That's why another number is out there. You have all those kids being educated and being trained to be decent in tennis, and they start playing USTA tournaments, and the majority of them leave the sport after 2 or 3 tournaments and say, I'd never want to.
Because they have to fight through so much shit just dealing with other kids.
And other parents.
Oh, I bet the parents must be the worst part of it, right? Yeah. Wow. I had no idea that kids were cheating against each other like that, because you're right, because there's not enough umpires to go around at those tournaments, so kids have to use the honor code, which doesn't get very far these days.
Well, the USTA rather pays their CEO $1.3 million, and their top level, like the first 8 leaders, they get together $10 million, then putting another empire on any of those tournaments. And the umpires, how much do they get? $200 or so? It wouldn't be that much.
One would think, yeah. And keep those, because all those kids must be paying fees, right, to pay in the tournament. So why would they be losing them? Yeah. You're losing the next generation. Yeah.
This is a big thing you just mentioned. You're losing the next generation. Yes. Yeah, they lost them already.
So when did this, has this been going on for like 30 years, or is this cheating and this kind of mass exodus of tennis something that's just started happening? Yeah.
I remember I went to Rancho Las Palmas in Rancho Mirage, and to interview a tennis director there for my newsletter, and there was a junior tournament going on, and the coaches are not supposed to talk to their players during the match.
Right. That's same at the professional level too, right? Yeah.
Although they start to loosen that at the professional level, but it's not allowed at the junior level. And one coach, who I know very well from San Diego, he was sitting in the bushes next to the fence when his player served, his young kid, and he gave him advice. In the bushes, whispered to him.
That's kind of tricky. Sooner or later, we'll all just have like little earpieces, right? Like serve wide, serve up the middle.
I would say, why not coach your players?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not allowed.
Did you ever see the? I mean, you're German, right? You must have watched the Boris Becker documentary. And did you see the thing with Andre Agassi? Because Boris would put his tongue out on one side when he would serve wide, and put his tongue the other side when he was. And Andre Agassi is like, I just followed your tongue. I could return back I knew exactly where you were going. I love that. Guys coaching in the bushes. Guys like picking out like little tells on which way they're going to serve.
There are so many stories. I could tell you another 2 hours of stories about Bobby Riggs, for instance.
Yeah.
Or the old masters from the 1900s, 1920. There's so many stories.
Yeah. I mean, it's really sad that it's become so difficult for young players to get into tennis, and there's just no real alternative to the USTA, right?
Yeah. Or future.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at the constituents and the members of the USTA that play in their programs, like Adult League is the big program, it's the money maker for all the sections. They're all over 50 or 60.
Right.
So they are trying for years now to get young people in, but it's tough. It's tough. They don't have the right messaging.
Well, it's so hard too, because you have to think like, I mean, you've got baseball, which is an American pastime, right? You've got American football. Every kid in the U.S. plays soccer when they're young, like European football. Then you've got basketball. I got into basketball at a very young age and took that right through to university. So like, and now and Tiger Woods exploded golf 25 years ago, right? Like that happened, and changed the whole game. And now he's got young kids of every color playing golf at a young age. And no one's really done that for tennis. I mean, not in the U.S. at least. I remember listening to Andy Roddick. I really feel for Andy Roddick, because Andy Roddick was like he was going to be like the world's best player for 10 years. And then Roger Federer showed up and just destroyed Andy Roddick. But he was talking about, he's like, the U.S. we couldn't compete against Federer and Nadal and Djokovic for like 20 years. And there's just no one coming through the pipeline. And eventually he retired, and I think he only won 1 or 2 Grand Slams, but he could have won 10. Yeah. Well, U.S. Open, I think, right? Yeah. So it's, it's just like, where's the next generation coming through?
Well, people always think, unless we have a star coming up, a real top 5, top 10 star, tennis will die. But I don't believe. Yes, a star will help selling tickets and will help with the viewership of tennis tournaments and so forth. But the grassroots work.
The grassroots work is super important. I won't disagree with you there. But having a star will, over a decade, bring in more people into the grassroots system, right? Like I remember no one liked golf, and then all of a sudden everyone liked golf, and because Tiger Woods lit up the Masters and went -16 or whatever the hell he did and won by 10 strokes, and that juiced everyone up, and like that weekend everyone went and bought golf clubs. Like I remember it. I think I was in my early 20s or late 20s, and I just remember like people who had never had an interest in golf were like, let's play golf, like we got to do it, like. And so sometimes, like, I don't know if they stayed with the sport, but definitely that star power can get people into it, but whether they stick around, it's a little bit more difficult.
Well, the USDA has they have the player development program designed to create a star, and in the last, let's say, 15 years, they have spent somewhere between $400 and $500 million with this program, and haven't created.
Who's the men's number one in the U.S. right now? Is it this kid Taylor? Yeah. I saw just him on the Netflix show. I haven't seen him live. I haven't been out to Indian Wells yet, but hopefully next March. Yeah.
Indian Wells is it's just one of the greatest tournaments in all the tournaments.
Yeah. I was living in Dubai the last few years, and in December, a lot of players come through Abu Dhabi and Dubai to play in these winter tournaments on their way to the Australian Open. So they come out, they play in Abu Dhabi for a few days. I got to see like Carlos Alcaraz. I got to see Philippoussis? No, not Philippoussis.
Mark Philippoussis, he's a little older. He's retired.
No. There's another guy who's coming out. He's Greek. He also has a Tsitsipas. That's it. Yeah. There's a couple of guys with some crazy names out there, but it was great because I got to see them come through the UAE on their way out to Australia and stuff like that. So that's been nice. But I really missed the game. I really hope I can get out to Indian Wells next March. Hopefully.
It is.
Yeah.
And now parking is free. It's even better.
They call it what, the fifth major, right? Yeah. So where do you see your development in the next kind of 6 to 8 months? Like what's I guess the key thing now is just getting California set up as your test for Conga sports and city slams, but then you have to expand that across the lower 48 and then maybe Alaska and Hawaii. Like
it's a big job. Yeah. Yes, and we're looking for investors, of course.
Mm.
Not right now, but probably in about 3 or 4 months. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be tough. This is a big country,
yeah.
And I know how big this country is. I traveled this country. I've been to 49 states and been on 200 trade shows in this country.
Oh wow! Yeah,
everywhere. So it is big. It will demand a lot of financial resources in order to do that, and I'm determined to get those resources.
Is the fees that you can charge people at the amateur level to do these city slams and to be involved in Conga sports and stuff like that, are the fees that you charge those amateurs enough to really generate the kind of revenue you need to take your company on a national level?
The fees we are charging here in California, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, our aim is to become profit,
mm-hmm.
right? So we can show potential investors in a few months, yes, we have a program that is already profitable. When the program is spread out over this entire country, it'll be hugely profitable.
Yeah. And where are you with like corporate sponsors? Because I'm sure if a tennis company, like a racket company, comes and sponsors, city slams, the USTA will probably be pissed off at them, right? So then if they try to sponsor something else that the USTA does, maybe they don't want them, right? Have you come across any kind of issues like this? Is that not something you want to talk about?
Oh, I have no problem.
Because you're competing in an alternative, you're creating an alternative system and an alternative league to what the USTA is set up, and the USTA seems to have some issues and some faults. And if anyone from the USTA ever wants to come on the show, happy to talk about it. But today we're just here with you, but you're creating like an alternative universe, right? And
so before I talk about our current sponsors, let me tell you a little story.
I'm loving your stories.
So this was 4 or 5 years ago. A very well-known, to insiders, well-known personality in tennis. No one else knows. And his name is not known anywhere else, but the insiders know that this is the guy who makes things happen, right? So he calls me and tells me that Sinclair Broadcasting is interested in buying your newsletter. And I'm thinking, wow, should it really be that I make some interesting money with this newsletter?
This wasn't John McEnroe, was it?
No.
He's too well known.
So I say, let's talk. And he said, how much you want? Thinking, oh my God, he wants to know a number. So I said, how about $250,000? He said, possible.
Mm-hmm.
Possible. There's only one problem. And I knew what was coming. He said, you're not.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So if you sell out and toe the line, you can make money.
All of us, and he meant tennis.com, the tennis thing, tennis that, and tennis channel, we are all towing the line. We are all only bringing positive stuff about the USTA. You are not. So if you change, we can talk.
That's a fucking bribe. You were bribed. That's interesting.
So okay. Now, as far as sponsors are concerned, we have a few sponsors. My favorite tennis company of all companies is sponsoring us a little bit. Het tennis rackets. Whenever someone signs up for a Conga Sports membership, which is $69 a year, then
very, very reasonable.
Yeah, Het gives them a $50 coupon against their product.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite apparel companies in tennis. Cruise Control Gear.
I've never heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. From New Jersey. Very nice company. Two sisters running this company. Extremely nice stuff they make for women and for men. And they do the same thing. They give people a gift certificate, and they are sponsoring us with a little money. So this is nice. And there's a local company in Sherman Oaks, Cognitive Wealth Management. They are sponsoring a league with a little money. So yes, we're getting some sponsors in, because that was my original idea, to make tennis a little bit more affordable for people, to have sponsors come in and pay the registration fee for players. And in return, we promote those sponsors.
Yeah, no, that's great. And also too, like, as you build out this city slams, you're going to have the amateur players, but then you mentioned also too, you're going to have corporate players, and and the corporate players, you can charge them a shit ton, and that'll help sponsor the amateur level, right? So that's always, something interesting.
I wish when it comes to that next year, and we're going to the Googles of the world,
And Apple.
And of course here Sony Pictures, and so yes.
Yeah, I'd love to watch the Sony Pictures people play against Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah, all the old studio businesses going up against all the streamers. That could be fun.
I should pay you for your ideas.
Anytime. Just come back on the show when it actually happens, and we can talk about it. But no, that's great. Just find all these like massive rivalries, like General Motors versus Tesla.
Great idea.
I bet you Elon Musk would play. He doesn't have to wrestle anyone. He just has to swing a racket, right?
And he can play against Zuck and his company.
Exactly. Facebook against Tesla.
You're giving me some really interesting ideas.
Just chase the money. Just find out where people hate each other, and then find out where the money is, and it's everywhere. JP Morgan versus Morgan Stanley. Oh, and JP Morgan Chase, they do a big sponsorship with Serena Williams, right? So they've been in tennis forever. Chase Bank. Yeah, they're big. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. Well, probably deep with the USTA as well, though.
Yeah. And they have more sponsors, like Cadillac is now a sponsor after Mercedes, after many years, said they want to give their sponsorship money into another direction. I think they're doing more in golf now.
Yeah.
And so Cadillac came in.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I remember when I was a ball boy at the Canadian Open, we had that tournament was like part of the Mercedes like league. I remember we had the Mercedes logos on the nets, right? Because I was always at the net on my knees, ready. So I remember those logos. But yeah, so it's moved on to Cadillac now, huh?
Which is weird, but don't want to go there. So did you have some good stories from your time? Your ball boy?
Yeah, I remember ball boying for Agassi one night, center court, 7 p.m. start, and Brooke Shields was there when he was married to Brooke. And that was kind of like real star power, because that was like early 90s when Brooke Shields was like everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was pretty exciting. I remember like ball boying for Lendl and just being like, how's this fucking guy this smooth? Like, never looked like he broke a sweat, never looked like he was running to just get there. He always was so in control. And then McEnroe, like just yelling at everyone all the time for the right reason, going after line judges and baseline umpires and stuff like that. And I just remember like the 10 years went by really fast, but for 2 weeks every July, I was there, and it was really special. It was a great way to grow up. It was all voluntary, so it was all volunteering, and but it was really well run, and Tennis Canada did a really good job. I thought. I don't know what it was like. I was like 12. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but I loved being around the game. It was very special.
Canada is a good organization.
Yeah.
Did they pay for your shoes and your shirt?
Yeah. We got. I think it was all Head. I think Head was the sponsors. We got shoes. We all had to wear the same uniforms, right? So we got 2 shorts, 2 shirts. Had to wash them every day. Sometimes I had to wear 2 in one day if it was super hot, which it was. Toronto gets very hot in the summer, but yeah, it was amazing. It was I like anyone who does that, anyone who loves tennis at a young age should ball boy at whatever the highest level they can reach, like whether it's university tennis or whatever, because ball boying teaches you so much about the game that you might miss if you're playing, because when you're playing, you're way too in it. But when you're ball boying, you're in it, but you're also watching the other player, and you're also watching the judges, and you're watching. It's like a real 360-degree experience, especially if you're at the net, right? Because you're watching both sides. If you're on the baseline, you're maybe only watching whichever player is on your baseline. But it's such a great experience for any young people, and it really pisses me off. It really pisses me off that the U.S. Open uses adult ball kids, because I don't think there should be any ball boys over the age of 18, ball boys and girls. I think they should all be kids who are enthusiasts in the sport, and I think that it should always be voluntary and always be children, because I think everyone has patience for children. And the other thing that really pisses me off is I don't know when they started rolling the ball, but rolling the ball from the net to the baseline just makes me insane. And I'll tell you, even today, I cannot watch a tennis match without focusing almost entirely on the ball kids, because when I was a ball kid, I was part of a team, and actually Gavin Ziv, who's now the president of Tennis Canada, was our team captain. So my brother and I were on a team of there would have been 12 of us, right? 6 on, 6 off for the set. So there would be 6 ball boys, and then we would switch at the end of the set on the break. And so Gavin managed 12 of us, and then eventually Gavin moved on and managed all the ball kids. So he had like 200 kids to look after, and then I managed that little team for a while. And it was amazing. First of all, Gavin Ziv is an amazing human being, but getting to go up through the ranks was beautiful, and getting to see how much all the kids loved being on center court, and that's what we all fought for is those center court matches.
There is a woman, one of my friends. I don't want to mention her name. She was a ball woman. I think she was a teenager, and I think it was in the desert. A large tournament, BNP or something, but before it was called BNP. And she was one of the few ball girls that was ever removed from a court.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I think she said she was, it was Mark Philippoussis actually playing.
The Australian.
Yeah. And she started talking to him.
Oh, really? That's a no-no.
She asked him a question while he was trying to get ready for serve or something. And he was so dumbfounded. It's never happened.
No, never. And you never speak to the players.
They went to the umpire and they removed her.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow. I'd love to have a conversation with her if she ever wants to talk about that.
She's now a flight attendant for Delta.
Okay. Nice. I remember the craziest thing that happened for me was, not for me, but during one of my years, I can't remember which one, but it was one of those times where McEnroe was losing his shit, and he got one of the ball boys. He gave him his racket and gave him 2 balls and said, "You fucking play for me." And then this kid gets up. I can't remember which kid it was, but this boy, young ball kid, he must have been 12 or 13. He gets up and he's like, "I don't know what to do." And then the opposing player gives his racket to another ball kid. And then it was just ball kid against ball kid for 5 minutes, and everyone goes crazy. And then they get back to the game. And I always love that, because
it's great entertainment.
It is. I think that's the entertainment value that's really missing. Because when I watch, when through my own personal experiences of being a ball kid, tennis was amazingly entertaining. And I don't know if it was just the McEnroe Agassi era, because I haven't really stayed up with the changes of the game, but I just feel like Federer and Nadal and Djokovic were so business first, not they just took care of business on the court. They were assassins. They were ruthless. They were the greatest tennis players that have ever lived. But in some ways, they just had very limited personalities, because they were so focused on the game. And these guys like Boris Becker, who were diving and sliding and yelling, and McEnroe, who was breaking rackets and screaming at everyone, these players kind of aren't around anymore. I mean, this Australian guy that they have, big tall guy, what's his? Yeah, Kyrgios. Yeah, he seems like quite an interesting personality. But tennis needs these people, because they want to cheer these people on. They want to see people get yelled at. And again, it has to be. It's an entertainment product that's not entertaining. We're seeing incredibly high levels of tennis, but it's not that entertaining. People are just figured out how to win all the time.
I have another story for you.
I love it. Yeah, let's keep going.
One of my first exposures to the business of tennis. In San Diego, I had this group, the San Diego Tennis Network, and I had this crazy idea that I needed a spokesperson, a well-known spokesperson, right? So, but no money yet. I need significant money to spend on that. So the head pro at the Bobby Riggs Tennis Club I think his name was Milos. He says, I know Goran Ivanisevic.
I'm ball boy for him.
Yeah. So they went to school together.
Yeah.
He says, Goran's coming to Indian Wells next month.
He was the biggest server for like a decade on the tour. Yeah.
He said, do you want me to set up a meeting with him? I said, sure, of course. So lo and behold, that day I went to the Hyatt in Indian Wells, and Goran came in. So very nice gentleman, very nice. And I started to talk. He immediately read the accent, and he says, where from in Germany? And so he loves Germany. And then he, when I started to talk about the San Diego Tennis Network, he says, oh, no. Goran doesn't talk business. My agent is coming. So just wait a little. So we talked some more. And whenever I talked about the tennis network, he said, no. Just wait. So then the agent came, and Goran says, see ya. And he left. And the agent, he was a young guy from Monte Carlo.
And just cut you to pieces?
In a suit, very good-looking guy. He sat down, looked at me and said, what do you want? And I thought, oh my God, that doesn't start well.
No.
So I started talking about the San Diego Tennis Network. He only listened for 10 seconds. He said, stop.
He wasn't loving it?
Then he reached into his pocket, got his business card out, put it on the table and says, $500,000, do you have it or not? I said, no. He said, okay, call me if you have. And then he left.
Wow.
That was the meaning.
That's some high-level stuff for sure.
I hope he's not waiting for the...
I'm sure Goran Ivanisevic, he won some majors. He was fantastic. Yeah. That's the big one, obviously. I still have not been to see Wimbledon.
And guess who's going to see Wimbledon this year?
Oh, really? Are you going there? That's next month, right? June.
July. It starts July 7th.
Okay. 8. Yeah. Did you get to go when you were living there briefly, just for a year? No. I haven't. Yeah, that's right. You did. You came to that kind of late in life.
I was into soccer, right?
Yeah.
And the company I worked for, the electromedical equipment was basically very well suited for soccer clubs. So I went in and out, Manchester United, Arsenal. They were all Manchester City, the new Premier League champion. They were all into getting this equipment. And I went in and out the clubhouse. And I remember one day, another story. Crystal Palace, one of the Premier League teams, was at least, I don't know where they are today. I was in the locker room with the boys when the game was over, and then we all left. And we left by this fence where people were holding the piece of paper and
for signatures and stuff.
Yes. So and I started doing signatures.
And people were like, who is this guy?
I bet today when they look at all the signatures they got.
Yeah. Was he one of the coaches? I can't remember him.
But Wimbledon, yes, this year. And I got invited.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a good way to go, right? Yeah. You have some good seats and stuff like that.
In the main stadium.
Okay.
With lunch in the club.
Okay. I won't. No one's watching this. Actually, this will probably come out right around Wimbledon. It'll probably come out in late June or early July. So you'll be ready for that. Well, that's amazing. It's interesting how you've taken this kind of, you came to this late, but you've just kind of grabbed it and you're running full speed ahead. Yeah. I have a Goran Ivanisevic story actually.
Okay.
And so I think at this stage, this is like late 90s, probably. And I remember like, this was just when Andy Roddick was getting really warmed up as a junior, or like he was just starting to play his first ATP tours. And I remember like Roddick, Philippoussis, and Goran Ivanisevic were like the biggest. Remember Philippoussis was like 6'6" or something like that. He had a big serve too. And the ball boys were always, the ball crew leaders, like the team leaders and stuff, they were always telling us, when the players warm up for the serves on singles, they serve across, they serve on opposite courts. So the ball boys have to catch the serves, right? But they were telling us, like, let it bounce off the wall first and then catch the serves, right? And we were like, no, fuck that. Like, I want to catch Goran Ivanisevic, just his ATP fastest serve, right? and they were getting so pissed off at us. But it was such a rewarding feeling watching these like 100-mile-an-hour serves come in and just catching it with your bare hands. I used to love that, but now they don't do that. Now, like all the ball boys, they all like catch it off the wall, and it's terrible. If you can't catch a fast serve, I don't think you should be a ball kid. Yeah, I remember that.
I was in a serving contest once at the San Diego Tennis Fest many years ago, and a pro or an ex-touring pro, he served, and if he could return his serve, he got a prize.
Oh, really? That he was that big? Yeah.
So I said to the guy, "Why don't you serve?" He said, "I just did." I had no clue. I didn't even see it.
That fast, huh? Yeah. I mean, at that level, you basically have to make a decision before the racket hits the ball. Like you have to be making a first step.
And here we get to a very, very interesting subject.
Which is what?
The subject is the topic of eyesight. It is my opinion that the only differentiator for tennis pros, let's say top tennis pros, top 100, will you be a top 10 pro or not? The only differentiator is your eyesight.
Really?
If you have perfect eyesight and perfect coordination with your eyes and your hands and your feet, then you'll be a top player. If not, you will not.
Really? And do you see people coming through the amateur ranks that just don't have that coordination or that eyesight?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty alone in this with this opinion. And the tennis coaches, they will tell you, no, it's the coaching. It's the coaching that makes.
Yeah. That sounds like something coaches would say. No, but that makes pure sense, because at some level, everyone has the same serves and everyone has the same shots. So what makes Novak Djokovic, all-time, master, Grand Slam winner? Like it has to be something else. And obviously the brain, the mental strength, that inside sports mentality is obviously very important. Fitness is obviously huge.
Athleticism.
Yeah.
And
eyesight,
and having the right racket. Guess who has the right racket?
All of them?
A head racket. Novak.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's been amazing. I think Novak was probably the biggest player who's changed like the fitness and the diet of these tennis players and athletes, because he's always stayed super thin and super flexible.
He's also a Serb.
Yeah.
And Serbian men
yeah. No messing around there.
No mess. And if they want something, they get it.
Yes.
He wants it.
Yeah. Although someone says he's on his he's doing his final lap around the tour now because he's lost his coach and he's missing events, and he's probably just going to show up to Wimbledon and then retire.
He wants to win the French Open. That's his goal.
Right, because that's the only one he hasn't won.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Can you imagine if he wins Wimbledon and then retires while you're there? That'd be incredible.
I have tickets on the 8th and the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first 2 days of a 2-week event.
Yeah.
So it is likely that he doesn't have to play the first.
Yeah, he has a pass by. Interesting. Well, look, amazing chat. I mean, do you have one more great tennis story before we go? Something you haven't thrown out yet? Something we can end on?
Yeah. There was a woman in this country. Her name was Helen Wills.
Okay, Helen Wills.
I want to say 1924, 28. She was from Northern California, and she won 8 Wimbledon. And she played very, very focused.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this mantra she wrote in her biography. Whenever she hit the tennis ball, she would say to herself only, every shot, every shot, every shot. She repeated that mantra millions of times. And she was so focused that one year she won Wimbledon and didn't realize, and she kept on playing, and the umpire said, "Hey, lady, you just won. It's over."
Jesus, can you imagine?
She was also, the story goes that she also won not only singles, she won also doubles and mixed doubles Wimbledons. And one Wimbledon, she played with a man who was reportedly not that good. So he decided to stay out for 3 games and only come in when he had to serve. It was allowed at the time.
That's crazy, isn't it? So she was playing 2-on-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she still won.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She was that good.
And this was in the 1920s.
This was also a time when the champion from the previous year didn't have to play 7 or 8 matches. They only played the final. They were automatically in the final.
That's crazy. How is that possible?
Yeah.
I think that's actually a hindrance because I think because if you play a few matches before the final, you find your rhythm, right? To have to like be ready to play a final without having a few warm-up matches that's tough.
She was that good.
Yeah. And she won 8 Wimbledon. How is that not a story that we've heard anything about?
Well, there are stories about Suzanne Langland, for instance,
Yeah.
or Bill Tilden, one of my favorite old time.
Well, it's a great game, and well, I wish you the best of luck with Conga Sports and your City Slams project. And yeah, it's great to hear this, and please, like, you know, if this starts to develop and it starts to really catch fire, if you want to come back and talk about it, let's do it for sure.
Maybe we have you play and field a team for Beverly Hills.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I haven't played tennis, and I can be a ball boy though. I still have those skills. I don't know if I can serve anymore, but I can definitely catch and throw.
But you don't have to be an expert player.
Yeah.
Because City Slams, one of the things we do at City Slams to prevent cheating, we handicap every player.
I'm already handicapped. It's okay. I can't swing anymore. No, I'm in good health, but my tennis game is pretty bad. But how do you handicap the players?
Well, the lower level players, their games count more than the higher level.
Oh, really? So it's like golf, where you have like a handicap in golf, right? Where you get a few extra strokes. Yeah.
I remember this lady I recommended in the beginning who has this boutique.
Yeah.
Adeline Ajad Cook. That is her system. She developed the system of handicapping teams and players. For her, she does tournaments as well.
Okay. All right.
He would be a great person to talk to.
Okay. I'll make sure we get her in here.
Ask her about Tommy Haas.
She's got some good Tommy Haas stories. He was amazing. For absolute first class human being. Yeah. Okay, boss. Well, look, hey, we can go up here and we can see us up there, shake hands, let everyone know we're in the same room, not doing this by Zoom. Thank you very much for swinging by.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was really fun.
I agree. I come back anytime. And we fade to black, and we're out.